Welcome, everybody, to All Sides with Danny, where no topic is off limits and no truth is watered down. From the pulpit to the podium, from the court to Congress, we break down faith, sports, and politics like nobody else. This is a show where bold opinions meet deeper conviction, where the culture meets the kingdom, and where truth always gets the last word. So buckle up. This isn't conversation. It's real talk for real people. Let's get into All Sides with Danny. And today we're going to be circling back at a phenom, a phenomenal athlete who has taken the sports world by storms. She just didn't make headlines last year. She's making headlines again this season, reshaping professional women's sports right now as we speak. We're going to be diving into Caitlin Clark and her impact on sports and on the WNBA. But before we get into that, we want to talk about just some headlines that caught my attention. I'm not going to discuss it too deep here today, but I definitely wanted to just kind of touch on it. Just a week ago on his latest episode of The Mind Game, Steve Nash and LeBron James voiced his frustrations with how rings have become the primary measure of the greatness of basketball. And that just really sparked something in me. I had to talk about it. I couldn't let this one pass. He went on to say that a ring is a team accomplishment. Rings reflect collective effort, not just individual brilliance. He questioned the obsession. He said, and I quote, "I don't know why it's discussed so much in our sport. Why is it the end all, be all of everything?" He went on talking about legends like Allen Iverson, the great Allen Iverson, Charles Barkley, who never got a title. And obviously he talked with Steve Nash about it. And he argued that they still remained icons in the sport. And I would agree with Mr. LeBron James on that. Those guys are icons in the sports. They are great basketball players who brought so much to the game. And he went on to say that they were great icons despite the fact that they never lifted the Larry O'Brien trophy. He compared the NBA culture or the ring culture to other sports, pointing out Hall of Famers like Dan Marino. Dan Marino only went to one Super Bowl and never won it. He talked about Barry Bonds. And, he said, we don't dismiss these great players because of their lack of champions. But the reality is Dan Marino is not brought into the conversation of the greatest quarterbacks of all time because he doesn't have a Super Bowl ring. And I'm not even going to dive into the whole Barry Bonds things. That's another topic for another day. But it just blows my mind that this man, LeBron James, who has self-proclaimed himself the greatest basketball player to ever grace the basketball court or shoot a basketball, the self-proclaimed king, the one who left Cleveland. And the reason why he left Cleveland, I know it's been so long ago. The guy's been in the league now, 23 years? It seems like an eternity. But he left Cleveland because he couldn't get past the Boston Celtics. And so he makes a big spiel, right? Broadcasts it like it's some sort of a draft, right? He has this whole thing just dedicated to the choice, the decision he's going to make. Where is LeBron James going to go? Makes a big deal about it. And he says, I'm taking my talents to South Beach. And then he goes on to say, not just for one ring, not two, not three, not five, not six, not seven. So here he is 23 years later. And let me say something. 23 years in the league and you only have 4 championships. That doesn't look good. 23 years in the league and you only have 4 championships. Michael Jordan played 15 years in the league and he has 6 championships. Now, I know we can get into the debate who the GOAT is, who's the best, who's the greatest of all times. I know that Michael Jordan never proclaimed to be the greatest of all times. He gave credit to everyone in their own era, not like the self-proclaimed GOAT LeBron James. But here he is in year 23, and now he's saying, well, it's not about rings. It's not about how many rings someone has. This is a team sport after all. Of course, he says that after he goes where? After he goes to Miami and gets spanked by Nowinski and the Dallas Mavericks, right? And then he's lucky for Ray Allen's shot that causes the game to go to overtime. And let's not even talk about how he won Golden State. I like what Stephen A. Smith says on First Take when he said that he was given a stimulus package by the NBA when they suspended Draymond Green, and Cleveland went on to win that series. But let's give credit where credit was due. It was Kyrie Irving's play that brought him that series. So here's a guy in the beginning of his career, it was all about rings. I got to get the rings. But now that it doesn't fit the narrative of him being, the GOAT, it's not helping him. It's not propelling him past the great Michael Jordan. It's just not going to happen. But we've seen some echoes. We've seen some backlash. We've seen Draymond Green coming to his defense on the pivot. He echoed LeBron James' view, highlighting how difficult it is to win or even to win one title, never mind several titles. But critics like Colin Cowherd and Stephen A. Smith, who I agree with, accuse LeBron of being a hypocrite, accuse him of hypocrisy, pointing out that he built super teams, Miami in 2010, Cleveland's return. You think he returned back to Cleveland? He returned back to Cleveland because Kyrie Irving was there, and Cleveland was a great team. If he didn't return to Cleveland to say, I'm going to take this from scrap again and build it up. No, he went there knowing good and well that he had a great opportunity to bring Cleveland a championship. And I don't blame them for that. I don't blame him for making those moves. Listen, if he wants to make moves like that to be a great player and to, cement his thing, so be it. But don't say now that it's not about the rings, it's about a team. Even Kendrick Perkins, a former teammate of his, said standards shouldn't be lowered. People remember champions, and championships matter. And that's so true. When we talk about sports, when we talk about a Tom Brady, when we talk about a Joe Montana, when we talk about a Michael Jordan, a Bill Russell, and for my personal opinion, the best player in this generation, Steph Curry, the guy can shoot from half court and nail a shot. I mean, he doesn't get enough credit. When you think about people, you don't talk about second place. You don't talk about the silver medal, or you don't talk about the bronze medal. You don't talk about the runner-up. You talk about the champions. You talk about those who won. You talk about the Wayne Gretzky's, the Mark Messiers. We talk about the Larry Birds, the Magic Johnsons, the Kobe Bryants. We talk about the Steph Currys, who has multiple championships. We talk about the Tim Duncans of the world, who a dynasty there in the San Antonio Spurs. Other analysts like Greg Carton and Fred Taylor criticized the comments further, saying that debate distracts from what matters and that LeBron still lives in Jordan's shadow. And so just one of those things that really stuck with me. I want to talk about it. At the end of the day, LeBron can create whatever narrative he wants to create. He's never going to be the GOAT. Greatness doesn't have to tell people they're great. They just show up every day. And that's what Michael Jordan did. He showed up every day. Whether it was with the flu, whether it was when the team was not doing as good. Remember when Michael Jordan lost to the Detroit Pistons in Game 7? And what did he say? He said, man, they were just better than us. We're close, but we're not there yet. But we're going to just work harder next year. He didn't make excuses up. He didn't say, I need to go to a different team. No, he stuck through it in the 80s, facing the Celtics, the Detroit Pistons. He stuck with it. And so when LeBron tries to change the narrative, again, I don't want to get into it too much. That's not what this topic's about. That's not what this podcast is about. But just some of the news that's striking. LeBron James strikes again. And then the funny thing is about LeBron James is what? His agent then comes out just this week and says, we need to think about what's best for LeBron James and his title ambition. And I'm just paraphrasing that. That's not the exact quote, but that's pretty much what he's saying. So 1 week you're saying it's not about rings, and now you're saying, well, we got to consider the future and make the decisions that's best for us. I mean, the guy is God bless him, great basketball player, but he will never be a Michael Jordan. A great basketball player he may be, but a Michael Jordan he will never be. But we're going to circle back. What this podcast today is about. It's about Caitlin Clark. Last year as a rookie was electrifying. Everyone couldn't stop watching the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark. This season, she's now a sophomore in the league, if you want to say that, right? A sophomore pro. She's proven her impact wasn't just a fluke in the league. Many people said, well, this is just kind of fluke. A matter of fact, I remember a lot of people saying there's no way that she's going to do what she did in college. There's no way that she's going to have an impact in the WNBA like she does now. But that's exactly what's taking place. It's not a fluke. She is bigger than any other WNBA star. And she might even be bigger than the WNBA itself. Now, listen, I can count on one finger before Caitlin Clark that I watched a WNBA game. I can literally count on one finger. I don't think I ever watched a full WNBA game prior to Caitlin Clark. And I can actually say, I don't even know if I watched a women's college game prior to Caitlin Clark. She literally sparked in this country men, women, girls, and boys going out to watch her play, coming home, turning on the television to see if Caitlin Clark was playing. That's how positive of an impact that she's had on the WNBA and sports. But is she bigger than the WNBA itself? Others in the league say it's kind of dangerous to just depend on her, and I would agree with that. I think it's dangerous for the WNBA to just depend on one athlete. They need more than just a Caitlin Clark, and that's why we see some of these rivalries being birthed. But is she saving the, or is the relationship headed for reckoning with the league? We'll break it down from every angle: the ratings, the dollars, the culture, the locker room tensions, and what it means for the future of women's basketball. The league before Caitlin Clark, let's just rewind it. Before Caitlin Clark joined the Fever, the WNBA was really in obscurity. Was it growing? Yes, it was actually growing. It was gaining traction. It had survived some lean years, some years with questions were whether or not the league would even survive. In 2022, the average around 250 to 400,000 viewers. And in playoffs, it averaged about 500,000 viewers. So there was slightly some growth taking place, more than previous years. It wasn't bad. It wasn't the worst case scenario, respectably, but still the women's basketball remained something as an afterthought. Games were buried on ESPN2 or ESPNU or some other broadcasting network that, had very little popularity. Streaming platforms with minimal marketing is where we found WNBA games. Many casual sports fans couldn't name more than 2 or 3 teams. Honestly, I couldn't name 2 or 3 teams. And now we see a shift. We see people tuning in, people watching games, people seeing what's happening with the league, and that's a great thing. So Clark's immediate impact, it impacted every area, from TV to commercials to just broadcasting the WNBA and bringing it to the forefront of sports. Then Caitlin Clark, she declares for the draft, right? She says, man, I'm going to go to the big leagues. Her college run had already broken viewership records, culminating in a national championship game that pulled in over 10 million viewers. 10 million viewers. That was bringing in more than any NBA playoff game at that same time during that spring. When she was drafted first overall by Indiana, it wasn't just a basketball move. It was a broadcast moment. People capitalized on Caitlin Clark coming into the league. Her first WNBA game was aired on ABC. It drew in 2.7 million viewers. 2.7 million viewers to watch a regular season WNBA game. That had not taken place since 2011. And it didn't stop there. Indiana versus New York Liberty drew in 2.2 million average, peaking at 2.8 million. Clark's highlights viewership cleared 1.1 million views on YouTube, while the standard for WNBA clips might have been around 10 to 15,000 views. And she gets 1 million views on social media. Just unbelievable, her impact. Year 2 continues. We find ourselves in year 2 this season, even with Clark coming off a left quad strain, and now she's day-to-day with a groin injury. She quickly impacted the league. Again, viewership around the league remains at the highest for a player in the league. But when she misses games, right, this is the impact this woman have. When she misses games, folks, we've seen it twice so far this year. Ratings on national TV drops by 55% when Caitlin Clark is not playing. And even more so in Indiana games. For the entire league, Christine Bremen put it best. I've covered Tiger Woods his whole career. When he was gone, golf ratings dipped, but not like this. Michael Jordan sitting out, maybe 5-point drop, but Caitlin Clark is completely a different scale. There is no single athlete right now more critical to her league than Caitlin Clark is to the WNBA. There's no other player. Not Ohtani, not Aaron Judge, not Steph Curry, not any hockey player. Nobody is more important to the league right now than Caitlin Clark. She is what's making the WNBA. Betting, streaming, all driven by Clark. When she's there, it's up. When she's not there, there's a big dip. Sportsbook and fantasy sites have massively expanded with WNBA lines and contests. ESPN reported 170% increase in WNBA viewing over last year, largely tied to Indiana games. The WNBA app saw 613% spike, 613% spike in normal active users. She's not just lifting ratings. She's popping the entire basketball algorithm for the WNBA. The second she's sidelined, half the TV audience literally drops off. I can honestly say since she's been hurt, and I want to see her come back, and I know she's day to day, I can't think of a game I've watched. I'm hoping that changes, and I do want to get more involved and see it, but I'll be honest with you, it's just not something that I pay attention to when she's not there. The TV audience drops. That's incredible power and also an incredible risk for the WNBA. The WNBA, that's an incredible risk for them as well. That when she's not there, all of a sudden now you find your product dipping. That's telling you something. Caitlin Clark, she's the money machine. Let's talk cash. Let's talk money, because what Caitlin Clark means to the WNBA bottom line is unprecedented. Before her arrival, Indiana was averaging, right? The Indiana Fever, before her arrival, were averaging 4,000 fans per home game. 4,000 fans. Entire upper decks of the stadium were closed to the public because they just didn't sell tickets. So they closed it off, right? They blacked it out. Now, when you go to a Fever game, it's sold out. Crowds over 17,000 people. Away games featuring Clark sees teams moving from small arenas to NBA arenas to house the amount of people that want to come and watch her play. Think about it. You say, well, it's not about Caitlin Clark. Well, why is it that teams have to go to NBA stadiums or facilities to host a game? Well, that tells you everything. It's because of Caitlin Clark. Away games featuring Clark sees teams moving from small arenas into WNBA arenas. For example, the Washington Mystics, shifted to Capital One Arena just to fit the demand. League-wide, the WNBA posted a 48% jump in attendance this season, marking the highest attended opening month in 26 years, with over 2.3 million fans expected to attend games by the season's end. That is incredible. Ticket prices. On the resale market, tickets to see Clark's cost as much as some NBA games. Size seats run around $900 plus to watch her play. Even nosebleed seats that used to be $25 have now jumped to $125 plus if you want to go watch Caitlin Clark play. When Caitlin Clark goes against her rivalry, Angel Reese, in those showdowns, which I don't think is a rivalry at all in the sense of pure basketball talent. I know that's controversial, but pure basketball, I'll take Caitlin Clark any day, but I think it's great for the women's basketball, the WNBA. Then there's merchandise. Clark's number 22 jersey is the top-selling WNBA jersey ever, and for many stretches, it outsold the great LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and even Jordan on Fanatics. And Fanatics, by the way, is the number one sports place for jerseys, for memorabilia, and yet she's outshining and outselling the greats like LeBron, Luka, Jordan on Fanatics. Merchandise sales across the league jumped 234% with her arrival. Her financial ripple affects the masses. Studies estimate that Clark was responsible for 26.5% of all WNBA economic activity last season. Tickets, merchandise, license, advertising. Analysts say if this trajectory continues, she could unlock $1 billion in new market value for women's pro basketball. That is simply amazing. The Fever themselves reportedly surged from 90 million to 340 million just because she put on that uniform. She's not just moving the needle, she is the needle. You can hate her, you can love her, you can say whatever you want to say. This isn't about selling out Indiana. This is about rewriting the history of the WNBA. This is about rewriting what's financially possible for the entire league that's been fighting for those numbers for decades. Instead of other players being jealous and trying to hurt her, they should be riding this wave and capitalizing on the opportunity that the WNBA has to be great, to go forward, to excel, instead of hating on her. When we look at this, we see a culture shift in the WNBA. Beyond the stats, beyond the cultural explosion, Caitlin Clark isn't just a sports figure. She's becoming a pop culture flashpoint. She's the rare athlete whose storyline shows up on CNN, Time Magazine, late night comedy, even political memes. She's been called the Steph Curry of the WNBA. The Steph Curry shooting threes from the half court. I mean, it's amazing. Shooting three-pointers way beyond the arch. I mean, she is what Taylor Swift is to music. She mobilizes fans. Wherever she goes, she brings them in. People want to go and see her. She makes things bigger. Her rivalry with Reese is now the storyline in women's sports. Clips of them going back and forth, arguing, whatever it may be, the highlights. It's bigger than NBA highlights. People are tuning in to watch this. When they play it, people want to go, they want to watch it. They're tuning into YouTube and any other social media to see what's happening between the two. Fans argue that if she's cocky or if she's competitive. The media debates whether her product is hype or if she's the future of the game or whatever it may be. And every bit of that drives the engagement. She's in the headlines and it drives the engagement. It gives people something to talk about. It gives sports talk shows something to talk about. It gives podcasters something to talk about. She is driving this thing. She is the pinnacle of the WNBA. Every bit of this drives engagement. The WNBA saw 13,000 times the growth in the All-Star fan voting engagement over 2 years. Social media for the league is off the charts. Kids and future generations, perhaps most importantly, kids want to be here. I remember growing up, the commercial by Gatorade. I dream I'm him. That's the way I want to dream, to be like Mike. If I could be like Mike. Little girls out there and boys are putting on that jersey and they want to be Caitlin Clark. That's how big she is to the sport right now. That's how big she is. People want to be Caitlin Clark. Little girls are on the playground right now shooting baskets and trying to mimic what she does. That's the impact that she has on the sport. She's a TikTok highlight staple. You go to TikTok and it's Caitlin Clark. Everybody wants to watch her moves. Everybody wants to watch her play basketball. She's shaping how the next generation sees women's hoops as something to copy and to be like and to celebrate. She gave the league swagger. She gave it character. She gave it villains and heroes. She's given a great storyline for a league that was dying prior to her. That's how every big-time sport league grows, not just with skill, but with storyline. When we think of the 80s, the NBA in the 80s, it was Larry Bird and Magic Johnson that changed that league and propelled it. The games were on record. They were recording those games. You couldn't even watch them live, but they shaped the league and changed it. And then we see the great Michael Jordan with his Nike deal, his sneaker deal, Air Jordans. It changed the league. Everybody wanted to be like Mike. And then we had the likes of Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal in the early 2000s. And then we see the self-proclaimed king, LeBron James. And then we have the Steph Currys of the league and different individuals. They change the trajectory of something and cause it to be great. The Serena Williams of the world that introduced young girls to tennis. And I know there was great players prior to Serena Williams, but she was the one that opened the door. We think of the great baseball players that came, the Ken Griffey Jr.'s, the Sammy Sosas, and the Mark McGuires during that home run battle. All these people, set the stage to create, a noise in the league. And that's what Caitlin Clark has done. She's the headline every time. But the question is today, can the league keep this up? And we've already seen just a downfall with her being injured, her missing games. The league is depending on her too much. So here's where it gets complicated. Caitlin Clark is absolutely a gift to the WNBA. But if they don't know how to handle this gift, it could backfire on them. Is the league too dependent on her? Well, I guess from a league point of view, I would say yes. I think there needs to be greater stories. And there is some great players in the WNBA. But no one captivates the crowd like Caitlin Clark. When she missed 5 games earlier this season with the quad strain, TV ratings dropped 55%. Now she's day to day. They don't want to push her back. She has that left groin injury, and that could lead to more complications. She already sat out against Dallas. She's looking to sit out the next game. And so there's definitely, some things taking place there. Inside the league, there's frictions. Veterans like Diana Taurasi somewhat complain nonstop about the Clark hype, saying it overlooks decades of grinding, decades by players who committed their hearts and souls to the league. I could understand that. I could understand where players are saying, hey, we've been here this whole time. And, we never got this publicity. We never got all these highlights. We never got this famous. But I think instead of hating on that, like I said, capitalize on it. Capitalize on this opportunity that Caitlin Clark has presented to this league. Some rightly note that the media often spotlight the young white player while overshadowing black stars who've carried the sport for years. Perhaps that's true. And the league has a chance here to do something great or to make this into something that's beyond basketball. And that could be a mistake. This is why the WNBA's opportunity to widen the spotlight, they can build it up. They can build it up on great players like Wilson and Breanna Stewart and Angel Reese. Promote the rivalries with positivity, not negativity. Don't make it a race thing. Make it a basketball thing. In today's society, everything becomes a race thing. Everything becomes a white issue or a black issue, and it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be that in sports. It shouldn't be that in life. It shouldn't be that in religion. It shouldn't be that in politics. I understand, unfortunately, a lot of times that's how it goes. But if the league is going to capitalize on this, they need to remove themselves from that narrative of making this a race thing. Whether it's highlighting more of one side or the other, they need to get away from that. Promote the rivalries, but promote them right. Tell multi-layered stories about these athletes and absolutely fix accessibility to these athletes and to other teams that perhaps don't have that star power. Too many games are still scattered across hard-to-find channels. That's a league problem. Get a contract somehow. Get these games broadcasted outside of some of these sites that no one knows about. That's a league issue that the league needs to take control of that. So Caitlin Clark, my final take on all of this. Caitlin Clark is the spark. She really is. But it takes several sparks. It takes several sparks to keep a fire burning. It needs wood. It needs oxygen. It needs steady hand to keep it going. And Caitlin Clark by herself can't keep it going. It's going to take a group effort. It's going to take a league that realizes we have a potential here. We have a Michael Jordan of women's basketball. And we say, well, that's kind of far-fetched. Well, when you look at what she's doing in the league, again, the stats speak for themselves. You want to argue, you can argue a lot of things, but you can't argue stats. You can't argue facts. You can't argue what's out there and what she's done for this league. If the WNBA rides her too hard without building around her, they run the risk of watching all this momentum fall apart. And we've seen that when she got injured, right? We've seen that. It can vanish in a second. When she's on the court, the league capitalizes on it. People are watching. When she's off the court, things begin to dip. There's a problem there. And it's not for me to say how they're going to fix it. Greater minds than me need to figure it out. But it is a problem, and it needs to be noted. This is a league where, at the moment, if they seize it, women's basketball could explode like we've never seen it before. And it is exploding. But there is still some just uneasiness in this league. If not, it's just another hype cycle that will eventually fall apart, folks. I can say, as I am fresh to watching the WNBA, it was because of Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, this rivalry that's been created. And I hope that the league would capitalize on it. And I'm going to wrap this up today. It's been a little long. Don't like to do long podcasts. But whether you love her, whether you hate her, whether you just learned her name, Caitlin Clark has made you watch. Caitlin Clark has made you argue. Caitlin Clark has made you care about women's basketball. And that, to me, is greatness. When someone can hold your attention, when someone can change the trajectory of culture, when someone can be bigger even than the very sport they play or the position they hold and begin to broadcast it to a broader audience, that, to me, my friend, is greatness. And that's what we have with Caitlin Clark. But this can't be the Caitlin Clark League. It can't be just her. It has to become whole for all of women's basketball. Because if the league rises with her, it wins. If this league chooses to rise with Caitlin Clark, it's going to win. It's going to explode. She is only second in jersey sales to Steph Curry, the great Steph Curry. In the WNBA, she is number one in jersey sales. The league can rise with her and it will win. If it doesn't, the media will move on, folks. The media will move on like it always does, like it always has, and it will find the next best thing or the next story. And so the league has to stand with Caitlin Clark. The players should stand with Caitlin Clark. I believe in rivalry. I believe in competition. I think trash talking is great. I think it's good for the sport. We need more of that. But at the same time, she should be protected. At the same time, they do need to capitalize on this opportunity that she has presented to a league. But that's all I have to say here today. Thank you for tuning to All Sides with Danny. But share this episode, drop a comment, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, stay bold, stay informed, and never water down the truth. Don't change anything. Just be you. We'll see you next time.